actually, I'm pretty excited about this video because well, first of all, we're talking about cells. And so when we talked about the makeup of the life, okay, when we went into living things, we had an atom, okay. The atom was made up of the electrons, neutrons, and protons. But then we went off into something called a cell. And a cell is in every living thing. So we're going to talk about this. We're going to look at an animal cell. We're going to look at a plant cell. We're going to look at the different parts of the cell. We're going to look at why they're important. It's really interesting that you are an incredible, a living being. I mean, man, scientists are like, they can make this, make that, but they can't make a human. And you are made up of over 1 trillion cells. As a matter of fact, it's been said that you have about as many cells in your body as there are stars in the sky. Isn't that incredible? So let's look at why a cell. Let's look at why a cell shows us to be living and what's important about a cell. If we don't understand the individual cell, then we don't understand the human body and how it works. So first of all, we have an animal cell here. We're gonna have to watch. You're gonna learn a lot about the cell, what they call organelles. In the human being, you have the organs, like the heart is an organ and the lungs an organ. Well, in the cell, we call them organelles. So we're going to talk about the cell organelles and what they do. So first of all, I drew kind of a squiggly looking line here because there's no true shape to an animal cell, okay? So it has to do with a lot of things. Skin cells look a little bit different than lung cells, heart cells. So we've got this cell membrane, okay? So this is the cell membrane. Now what the cell membrane does is the cell membrane, it's semi-permeable, which means some things can go in and some things can go out, but not everything can go in and not everything can go out. So the cell membrane, okay, this is where you have to take notes, okay, once again, college class, so it's not like we're going to write everything down for you, okay, but what does the cell membrane do? It controls what goes in and out of the cell, okay, so the cell membrane controls what goes in and out of the cell. As a matter of fact, it's really pretty interesting because we have to have a balance of stuff inside and outside the cell. For example, if we have a lot of salt, if we eat a lot of salt on something, we need a little bit of salt. We need a little bit of salt inside the cell, but not too much. Too much salt messes up the cell. We have all kinds of chemicals: sodium, potassium, magnesium, and so the cell membrane is extremely important because it controls what goes in and out of the cell. Now, we have the liquid part of the cell. So all of this cell is made up of liquid. It's not made up of air, it's made up of liquid, okay? So inside of that cell, that's the cytoplasm. Let me grab another marker here. And so the liquid part of the cell is called the cytoplasm, okay? Let's see how this marker is. Oh, that's a mega marker. Okay, so cytoplasm. Okay, cytoplasm is the liquid part of the cell. All right, so all of this is made up of liquid. It's kind of cool. So then, as we go, we got the cell membrane, we've got the cytoplasm. Then we're going to kind of look at a couple of things here. We have the nucleus of the cell. Okay, so then we have the nucleus. Now it's kind of interesting because the Latin word nucleus means it's the center, it's the core, it's the heart of it, okay? In this case, the nucleus, what's important, there's a lot of things about this, and as you take other classes, and even there's even a class called cell biology that I had to take as a biology major. That spent a whole semester studying nothing but the cell. Isn't that wild? And but the main thing about the nucleus is that it contains the DNA, okay? So it contains the DNA. So that's what we need to know about the nucleus. We'll come back and talk about DNA later, but that's really important because the DNA is all of our genetic makeup. It tells us everything about us. We're even finding out that our DNA even has things like even different diseases we might have. So we'll come back and talk about DNA a little bit, but I want you to know right now that this is the nucleus, okay? All right, this is the nucleus, and it contains the DNA. But then there's another nucleus inside of the nucleus, okay? We have another little nucleus, okay? And this is called the nucleolus, Nucleolus. the nucleolus. So it's a nucleolus is kind of Latin for a nucleus within a nucleus. Okay, so you can see we have the overall nucleus, which contains the DNA. Then we have the nucleolus, which contains the RNA. Okay, contains RNA. Now, when we get done with the cells, we're going to talk about DNA and RNA. So we're going to come back and talk about those, but DNA is your genetic code. DNA is your genetic code. The RNA is what reads that genetic code. So, you know, it's kind of, we'll talk about that a little bit later, but we're going to have all this, we're going to have all these nucleotides and all these different things that make up this genetic code, and the RNA is going to actually read that and decode it and tell the body exactly what it's supposed to do. So there we go. So there, we're starting out kind of with the most important things here, okay? So then we have kind of an interesting thing off of the nucleus here, okay? And it's just kind of a squiggly line like this, okay? So it comes off of the nucleus, all right? This is called, okay, kind of an interesting word here. Once again, these are all Latin words, okay? These are all Latin words, and this is called the endoplasmic reticulum. Okay, so let's look at this once again. It would be really cool if America wasn't just a few hundred years old. If America was as old as Latin, and we had had all the discoveries in America, and English was the language. Okay, that would be cool, because then the nucleus would just be called the center circle. Okay, wouldn't that be cool? And the nucleolus would be called the circle within a circle. Wouldn't that be cool? Okay. And the endoplasmic reticulum, okay, endo means inside, okay, plasmic means all the plasma, all the liquid part of the cell, and reticulum, okay, reticulum is a word meaning slide. Isn't that cool? So inside the liquid part of the cell, we have the slide. Isn't that cool? So Latin, endoplasmic reticulum. Well, what does the endoplasmic reticulum do? The endoplasmic reticulum, we've got little dots on here, so we're going to put this together. So we have dots on here, okay? We have dots on here, and these little dots are actually just the dot themselves are called ribosomes. Okay, so the dots themselves are called ribosomes. So it's kind of interesting. What does the endoplasmic reticulum do? The endoplasmic reticulum, okay, the endoplasmic reticulum, all right. Let's just put this. Let's go in here a little bit further, and let's just say that it makes. Let's make a good M there so you can see it. Makes ribosomes. Okay, makes ribosomes. Wow. Well, okay, so this is really important. Well, look at this. This is attached to the nucleus. Wow. Certain thing, okay. So what do the ribosomes do? What do the ribosomes do? Okay. The ribosomes then make proteins. Wow. This is fascinating. Well, what are cells made up of? Every living thing. The new cells are made up of proteins. Oh, so later on we're going to talk about DNA and RNA, and then we're going to talk about cell division. So when the cell divides, okay, and makes two cells, we'll continue to progress through this, and you'll see it as we go. But when this makes two cells, we're going to have to make another cell. One cell is going to make two, and then those two are going to divide and make four. So how are we going to make these new cells? Well, we have to have proteins. You know, what's the cell membrane made up of? It's made up of protein. What's the nucleus? And all these different parts of the cell are made up of protein. So isn't that cool that the endoplasmic reticulum says, oh, the cell is fixing to divide. We need to make a lot more what? We need to make a lot more ribosomes. Ribosomes are going to make proteins. Now, what's interesting is we need proteins to be able to make proteins. So if you've been in a car wreck and you have you have your skin, they have cut muscle and even bone and everything. We're trying to replace. They put you on a high protein diet, protein, meats, cheeses, dairy products, things like that. If you're a weightlifter and you want to get big and bulk up, in order for your muscles to grow, you have to have more protein. Even if you were to lift weights and eat no protein, you would not gain any muscle mass, because muscle mass is new cells. Okay? So once again, the proteins are extremely important. Okay, we have to have proteins to be able to make proteins. Isn't that interesting? And so we have the ribosome. So here we go. We have the endoplasmic reticulum. Okay, and then the ribosomes. All right. And so they're attached to the nucleus and nucleolus. And then, I was telling you that the cell membrane allows certain things to come in and out of the cell. So throughout the cell, we have these little circles. Okay, we have these little circles, and those little circles are called vacuoles. V-A-C-U-O-L-E-S. And that's where we get our word vacuum from. They remove waste. They clean up the cell. They remove the waste. All right, they remove waste. W-A-S-T-E. Now, it's kind of interesting. Because the way this works is these vacuoles move around the cell, okay, and they absorb the waste. If we get too much, if the cell membrane, if something gets through there, okay, like for example, this could be a lot of things, okay. It could be too much salt. Could even be that we're spraying paint and we get some type of chemicals from that paint that get in some of the cells in our lungs. Well, even the vacuoles are going to try to remove anything that's not good for that cell. Now, what's interesting is how it gets out of there. So, let's say this vacuole fills up with all kinds of junk. Okay, it fills up with all kinds of junk. So the body is so incredible. Now, this is one cell, and I was telling you, you're made up of trillions of cells. So all of these cells, all of these cells have the same cell organelles. Isn't it incredible? Your heart cells, your lung cells, your brain cells, your skin cells, hair cells, they all have these same cell organelles. So here's this vacuole, okay? So what the body does, this is incredible in itself. It works itself, okay? It works itself to the edge, okay? And then the cell membrane actually goes around this to where the vacuole then is alienated outside of the cell. And then as this vacuole goes, okay, it goes into the bloodstream, all right? Goes into the bloodstream, and we remove the waste, okay? So isn't that cool? So we continually, as we do that, then we make new vacuoles. The vacuoles split off. So the cell has this incredible vacuum system to remove that. Then we have something else, okay, and it kind of looks like a little football, okay, and it's actually got it actually has this, which kind of looks like the seams of football. This is actually called the mitochondria. The mitochondria. Okay, so we'll just come over here and spell that for you. Mitochondria. All right. So the mitochondria, okay, makes energy. Okay, it's sometimes known as the powerhouse of the cell, like the electric factory. Okay. Like maybe the electric plant to make the power for the cell. There's several mitochondria in the cell, all right? So energy can't be created or destroyed, it only changes form. So the mitochondria comes in and makes energy to allow the ribosomes to move, allows the nucleus to be able to divide. So we have to have the mitochondria. So it's interesting how the energy, when we run and we work out, okay, we actually charge the mitochondria in our body. Isn't that amazing? And we'll talk about that. It has to do with respiration. The food that we take in and the oxygen that we take in allows us to be able to produce energy. Okay, food plus oxygen yields energy. Well, where does this energy go? The energy goes into all the cells of the body in the mitochondria. So we're going to stop this video. But once again, those are the main cell organelles that we want to concentrate in the animal cell.